and prevail in your fantasy football league with the help of our starting lineup. At host to quarterback the show, we have Nick Giacobbe. Up next, a dual threat in Dynasty and Daily Fantasy, we have Cody Repass. And finally, working the waiver wire, we have Nick Cap. These are your playmakers that will provide you with sleepers, breakouts, and busts to help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Week 15 live show of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, with the hopes that we help you prevail throughout the rest of the playoffs and the 2021 fantasy football season. I am your host, Nick Giacobbe, and joining me is Nick Cap. Nick, it's Sunday morning. That means Jonathan Taylor ran all over the Pats defense last night. I got the notification of a 67-yard touchdown, and I loved it. I loved it. I love having Jonathan Taylor in 4 fantasy leagues and being in the playoffs in all 4 of my fantasy leagues. Nick, how are you looking right now going into your playoff matchups? I think you're in, 4 or 5 out of them? I don't know if you have any buys or anything like that.
I'm in 4. I don't have any buys. Every league where I led the league in points in 3 leagues, and in none of those did I get a top 2 seed. And then the one league I got a top 2 seed is the 4 teams make the playoffs. I got one game which is not looking good so far. My opponent had, I think, 3 people go, maybe 4. Yeah, 4 people.
Who'd they have?
Herbert, Tyreek, Eckler, and Nick Folk. So that's 80 points that I'm down. I haven't had anybody play yet going into Sunday. That's never a fun sight. That league I don't care about as much, but and then the one thing I got really annoyed at was I went to bench Michael Pittman yesterday morning. I mean, I had him as my flop of the week. Clearly, I was going to bench him, and it didn't process on my Yahoo. So I have 1.2 from a half PPR league from Pittman locked in my lineup. That's no fun. But I'm still projected to win in that one. One of them I'm up big. Should have no problem winning that one. That's a 2-week playoff, so it started last week. And then one last league, I'm looking pretty good in that one as well. So a lot of stuff looking good so far, but hopefully on our next show, I can report back with some good news.
Yeah, for me, I'm in 4 leagues. I have a bye in one of them. My best 12-man team, I think it's 11-3 or something, whatever that record is. The best record in the league with the most points. That one I do have a bye. That one doesn't matter as much, and I do have DK Metcalf on that team, so I'm pretty happy that I have the bye because I don't have to play DK. My other 3 teams are looking pretty solid so far. There is one where I did face Pat Mahomes, and there really aren't any bonuses. So Jonathan Taylor's touchdown actually just got me past his projection. His projection was 21. He scored 24 in that league. So now I'm against Mahomes, who scored 37 and outdid his projection by like 8 points. So in that league, I'm actually still behind a bit. I think we're projected to each score like 142. So we'll see how that goes. But my other leagues do have bonuses. Our league has bonuses, and so does my other league. In my Dynasty League, I have Taylor and Tyreek Hill. So I'm off to a pretty good start in that one. I think I have like 50-something points or 60 points. So that's a good start. So we'll see how the rest of the week goes, but I am hoping that I do advance in all my matchups. Taylor helped a lot last night, and I was worried about him. I said it on the show. I was worried about him. He did have 110 rushing yards before that touchdown, but that was the nail in the coffin, and he's getting MVP talk. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I don't know. I think he should get some votes at least. None of the quarterbacks have played out of their minds. I mean, I guess Brady's the favorite right now, but it's not like Brady's having his best statistical season ever. So I don't know.
I mean, if you look at all the quarterbacks that really were in the running, it was Mahomes who struggled, Kyler who was hurt for a little while, Aaron Rodgers who had a couple up and down games. He's probably 1 or 2 with Brady who's had a little bit of an up and down recently. So I mean, it really is up for grabs though at this point. I think Brady walks away with it, but I think Taylor gets some votes. I think it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Taylor's ran them back into the season. They started down 2-5, I think.
I think they had 3 losses right off the bat.
Yeah, now they're only a game behind the Titans, who went undefeated for the second longest amount of time in the league. So
I hope the Colts win that division. I don't want the Titans in the playoffs. They just bore me. Anyway, we're going to talk some fantasy, guys. We have a lot of injuries, especially COVID, to talk about. I don't even think I have every single COVID injury in here because it's just There's so many. So Nick, if you want to comb through the notes while I'm doing plugs and just take
I
a
went
look,
through
I think
this morning. Don't worry.
everything. All right. So yeah, there's so much COVID news in the past 3 days. Games moved and everything else. Our fantasy week's not going to be over till Tuesday. Our next show will be recorded on Monday or Tuesday, so it's going to be a little wonky due to Christmas week. I'm traveling back to New York, where Nick lives, obviously. So it's a little bit of a wonky week for fantasy for us and our recording, but a lot of COVID news that we're going to cover and try to help you guys set those lineups for Week 15. I saw something on Twitter. I think it was Matt, or maybe it was the email that Matthew Berry sends out, that the bye weeks matter a lot more right now than other years because of these COVID-related injuries and all that other stuff. But let's get into those plugs. If this is your first time listening, thank you so much. We do now it's 2 shows a week, playoff time. The first show is usually on Fridays, and the second show is usually live on Sunday mornings. We're doing about 8:30 for the rest of the season. Nick's going to watch his Jets next week. Who are they facing?
Jacksonville. We get a little rookie quarterback.
You don't get to watch Urban Meyer, though. That's so disappointing. You get to watch the Jaguars without the Urban Meyer clown show.
Yeah, disgraceful.
That happened at 12 o'clock at midnight, by the way. That was awesome. News at midnight. They're like, all right, Urban, you're gone.
Did you see?
Awesome.
They're not paying him his salary because the team is saying, and I didn't even know this was a rule. You can fire your coach or a player if it's because of something that they did and not have to cover their salary.
Yeah, I saw that. So he gets no money from it either.
Yeah, so apparently they don't have to pay him. Urban Meyer can sue the team or whatever. But
there's
if they
no guaranteed money at that point,
do anything,
all the guaranteed money's gone.
Get him fired.
Yeah,
he's gone. No pay.
So Nick will be at the Jets game next week. So we're going to do probably 8:30 next week and probably 8:30 the week after that. So yeah, that's the Sunday live show. Our show's on Fridays. You can find the audio version on anywhere where you can find a podcast, including but not limited to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. If you would rather watch and listen to the show, go to our YouTube channel, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. You could also support us on all forms of social media, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok at PrimeTimeFFPod, then YouTube and Facebook Primetime Fantasy Podcast. All right, let's get into each game. We're going to do a game-by-game breakdown. Actually, let's answer this question first from my brother Joe. He posted on Twitter this morning. Jeff Wilson, Julio Jones, Allen Lazard, or Gabriel Davis? I don't like Lazard at all. I don't really love Gabriel Davis or Julio Jones. I love Gabriel Davis before the season. I'm going to say Jeff Wilson. I think the guaranteed workload's there. I think the Falcons' defense is horrendous. I hate the Falcons. I say it every single week. I hate them. I hate them. I don't even know who to take in the spread this week because the 49ers are -9.5, but I hate the Falcons. So I don't know. I'm going to take Jeff Wilson, though, because the Falcons' defense is horrendous.
I'm playing Joe in fantasy this week. I do not want to answer, but because I'm a good person, I agree with Nick.
My friend Phil just wrote, he's not a big football guy. He goes, I just want to know if I should start Tim Tebow this week. I've had him in my bench all season. I think this is the week he's going to put up big numbers.
I mean, it's possible. No Urban Meyer. Maybe he gets some workload. Maybe they re-sign him and put him on the practice squad.
Oh, boy. Alrighty, let's get into game by games. First off, Dallas Cowboys at New York Giants. Mike Glennon starting with Daniel Jones out with a neck injury. The Giants wide receivers are still all banged up. Feels like each of them has 1 or 2 different injuries. Saquon's playing, though. Zeke's playing. Cooper's playing. CeeDee's playing. I believe Tony Pollard is going to play, and Zeke hasn't played well the last few weeks. What do you think, Nick? Who's a big start, big sit in this one?
I mean, you got to trust Zeke to go out here and just absolutely smoke the Giants. The Giants are not too good against the run. Should be a fairly easy game for them. And I'm trusting Saquon. I think with Glennon there, you're going to have a lot more of those checkdowns. Glennon's not too mobile. Jones isn't too mobile either, but he's got some speed. He's got some wheels, and he likes to run. He likes to move out of the pocket. He doesn't throw too many checkdowns. I think Glennon does. So I think Saquon could actually have a nice day here. I think, he's kind of struggled. He hasn't really had too much pop weeks. I think he has the potential for it this week. Someone I'm not really liking is any single one of those pass catchers for the Giants. Like Nick said, they're all banged up. You never know what's going to happen. I think Tony has COVID. I don't think anyone was debating playing him anyway, but there's just too many question marks. I feel like maybe one delivers, but for me, if you don't know which one's going to deliver, I'm not playing them.
I think you nailed it. I think Zeke has to have a big day. The Giants have given up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing running backs in fantasy purposes. So if he doesn't have a big day today, then I'm almost pressing the panic button on Zeke. It's almost like last year. I had Zeke healthy in our league last year, which is my highest scoring team like ever. 2,200 points, number 1 seed. My team was stacked. And I think I was benching Zeke. I had Aaron Jones and I had somebody else. And I think I was benching Zeke because he wasn't playing well. I'm not saying you should bench Zeke today or next week or anything like that, but if he doesn't play well today, that's a problem. You only have 2 more. If you get through your playoff, your week 1 matchup or you have the bye, Zeke, that's a problem. He doesn't play well against a defense that isn't good against the run. And I think he had like 24 fantasy points the first time he faced the Giants this week. So I'll be a little worried about Zeke if he doesn't play well today. And you nailed it on the pass catchers. You're going to play Dak for sure. You're going to play Dak. He hasn't played as well this year, but I think you play Dak. You're going to play CD. You're going to play Cooper. But you're definitely not playing those Giants pass catchers. I can't really trust any of them. And that's just the truth. That I haven't liked them the whole year. Galladay was my flop on the year, and I hit the bullseye on that one. So we're gonna go to Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Who's this? You know what? I'm gonna take this one. I'm starting Big Ben this week. I don't like the noodle arm. I don't. But I do like the matchup. Tennessee has given up a lot of points. To quarterbacks, they've given up about the 10th most points. But to wide receivers, they give up the 3rd most points. If they're giving up points to wide receivers, they're going to give up points to quarterbacks too. So I'm playing Big Ben over a couple different names. I'll tell you a couple different guys that are on my waiver wire. But I dropped Derek Carr to get him. I know Derek Carr is facing the Browns, but Carr just hasn't looked like a great quarterback for a couple weeks. So the quarterbacks available are Ryan Tannehill against the Steelers, Garoppolo against Atlanta, Fields against Minnesota, Bridgewater against Cincy, Derek Carr against Cleveland, Zach Wilson against Miami. Just nobody really appeasing. So it's really Derek Carr, Ben, and I'm actually playing Ben. So I'm saying I think that's a sneaky play this week. I think he can get you 2 or 3 touchdowns. I hope once the Najee at least, and I think he can get you like 250 yards. I think he can just pop you up like 18 fantasy points, and that's really all you need.
I like the Big Ben take. Do you know since week 4, Ben Roethlisberger has the 2nd best touchdown to interception ratio in the entire NFL?
Really?
Yep. So as much as we want to criticize him, he does play conservative. He doesn't have the big arm, but he plays efficiently. And, for fantasy, maybe that doesn't put up the most numbers, but I mean, all you really need him to do is get into the end zone 2 times, 3 times, and there you go. There's your fantasy week. That's good enough for the start. My start of the week is Chase Claypool. Tennessee is extremely bad on the back end. I know that they've been a little bit better recently, but I think Claypool is more talented than people give him credit for. Everybody wants to make fun of the kid for the first down thing. I don't blame you for making fun of him, but he's still a talented NFL receiver. He's like 6'5", 230. He's a big dude. He's a very big dude. He's very athletic. He has all the makings of what could be a great wide receiver, except he's just a little bit too much of a diva for people's liking. But he can still deliver big in fantasy days. My flop of the week, I said it on Friday's show. He's the guy that I'm not starting in any league. I think a lot of people will play him. It's Pat Freiermuth. He's had a solid season so far for a rookie tight end. But the past, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks. Let me just pull it up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 weeks. He's been super, super, super touchdown reliant. Hasn't had a big game without that touchdown. Tennessee is top 5 against the position. Over the last 3 weeks, he's averaging a little over 3 targets a game. That's just not good enough for fantasy purposes for me to play him against a good team against tight ends.
My bench or my flop for me is going to be any running back on the Tennessee Titans. Don't play the matchup on this one. I love playing matchups. I say it every week. The Steelers have been not great against the run, allowing the 6th most fantasy points to running backs. However, I don't think Deontay Foreman or Jeremy McNichols is going to get you over 15 fantasy points. They may not even get you over 12. I think the Steelers' run defense is better than advertised. They're not facing Dalvin Cook this week. They're facing 2 backups. So I wouldn't play either of them, especially if they ride the hot hand. You won't know which one to play. Houston Texans against the new Jacksonville Jaguars with head coach Darrell Bevell, one of my least favorite NFL coaches out there. He was a Seahawks offensive coordinator for a while. He was run, pass. And now they're still run, pass. Good job, Pete. I don't know who to take in this game. The spread's like 3.5, so I think I have the Texans.
It was
7.5.
2.5 in favor of the Jags, and then when they fired Urban, it went up a point to
Yeah,
minus.
it went
was
up
really
after
funny.
they fired Urban. So I don't know. They might play better without Urban Meyer. But I'll say this: my start of the week is going to be James Robinson. I know he's been a bit banged up, but he has a great matchup against a Texans defense that's not great against the run. And on top of that, Darrell Bevel even said that he's a running back. He's going to get running back one production. So I'm saying play James Robinson. I think without Urban there, and there's going to be some productivity there. So the Texans are giving up the 5th most fantasy points to running backs. So I say play James Robinson. As a sit, I'm still just not trusting Trevor Lawrence. I just can't do it and show me enough to be able to start him in a fantasy matchup. So the only ones I'd really play in this one are going to be Brandon Cooks and James Robinson for me.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Nick. I called James Robinson my flop of the week. That was with Urban Meyer as the head coach. Knowing Urban's not there anymore, he would instantly become my start of the week with this favorable matchup. He's going to see the field, as you heard from Nick. Coach said it. Coach said he's our running back. He's going to see the field. Now, my stash from this game, if you are going into a playoff run, is Leviska Chanel. You know that there's going to be one of these pass catchers that thrives. And before the season, we thought it would be Chanel, but that was with Urban Meyer as the head coach. You almost have to reset your whole look of the Jaguars with the new coaching staff. You have to say, where before the season were these guys drafted? Is it worth taking the flyer on Chanel? Chanel right now is owned in 42% of leagues. That means that he's going to be on a lot of your waiver wire. If you have injuries on your bench, if you have COVID, stuff like that, guys you know that won't break into your starting lineup, it is worth stashing him, knowing that he could have the production for where you drafted him as his ADP this late in the season.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good take. Arizona Cardinals at Detroit Lions. James Conner ankle is expected to play. Chase Edmonds is coming off the IR. DeAndre Hopkins is put on the IR, and I just saw his notification on the Fantasy Life app. Hopkins tore his MCL last week and could be back for the NFC Championship or Super Bowl if the Cardinals want to make it, but it's unrealistic to expect him to return any sooner. That's pretty big news from a football standpoint. Zach Ertz, hamstring expected to play. TJ Hawkinson thumb. We didn't get to talk about this on our last show because I think it came out on Thursday. He had surgery on his thumb. He's out for 2021. That was a top 5 fantasy tight end right there. And DeAndre Swift is still out. I don't think Jamal Williams has been activated off the COVID list, but that's another one to watch. Lots to unpack in this game, Nick, from an injury standpoint, so I'm just going to run through it real quick, my thoughts. I liked Connor this week. I really did as my start. I still like him. Still play him. He's been a top 10 fantasy running back in terms of points. However, now he has Chase Edmonds there. He's a little banged up, and they have Kyler Murray, and they don't have DeAndre Hopkins, so I think they are going to run the ball more. I think he needs a touchdown to put up top 15 running back numbers. Ertz has kind of trickled off, but with Hopkins gone, maybe he gets fed a little bit more by Kyler Murray. Hawkins is a huge, huge loss for fantasy purposes, but nothing you can do about that. You're not playing the backup tight end from the Lions. And I wouldn't play Jamal Williams even if he is healthy and doesn't have COVID. I wouldn't play Jamal Williams against that Cardinals defense. They've been very, very tough against the run. They played very well against Sony Michel on Monday night. So my sit, I guess, is going to be any line. There's no line I would play. That's just the reality of it. The spread is like minus 13.5, and I took the spread because I think the Cardinals are a much more talented football team. As a start, I'm going to play James Conner. I said it on the show. I think you play James Conner, but I think he does need a touchdown to crack 15 fantasy points.
I completely agree, except I would start one line, which is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Ugh, I don't like the Lions. Actually, that's a lie. I do like the Lions. I do root for the Lions. I don't like them from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah.
Knicks New York Jets against the Miami Dolphins. Michael Carter, Knicks guy that he traded for, is activated off the IR. Myles Gaskin was activated off the COVID list. Jalen Waddle, as far as I know, is still on the COVID list. I couldn't find any news about it this morning. I believe he's still on the COVID list. A big start for me, Nick, is Mike Gesicki. The Jets haven't been well against the tight ends. They've given up the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends. Gesicki is one of Tua's favorite targets. And I think, have the Dolphins won 4 in a row, 5 in a row? Did they lose one? I remember
they're on a hot streak. I think they might have won 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now if I can find it. No, this is just in the fantasy app. Last time Gesicki faced the Jets, 5 receptions on 6 targets for 50 yards. It's a good game for a tight end, especially without a touchdown. He has a touchdown that's 11 points. Last week he had 11 targets, which is a lot. He caught 7 of them. His target numbers are pretty crazy since week I mean, really the whole season since week 2. 6, 12, 6, 7, 9, 8, 4, 8, 7, 6, 3, 11. Those are the targets. He hasn't had a touchdown since week 13, but he's coming off a bye. Dolphins are kind of healthy. I think he gets a touchdown today, and I think he gets you like 50 yards against the Jets. So Gesicki's my big start. My sit, Devante Parker. I know that I just don't really trust him. I know that Waddle's out, and some people will chase that, but I think they're going to run a lot of Myles Gaskin, and I think it's going to the pass game will run through Gesicki. So I wouldn't play Devante Parker. I think there's other receivers you could pivot to.
I hate that take. I'm starting Devante.
I knew you would hate that take.
I'm sorry, Nick. I hate the take. Devante Parker's worst game this season was 8.2, and that was with 7 targets. He's averaging over 7 targets per game. The wide receiver 1 is out. Devante Parker is going up against a beaten up, terrible secondary. The Dolphins are hot. I'm starting Devante Parker. No questions asked in this game. I'm starting Mike Gesicki. No questions asked. The only person, it's a player I love, as I'm sure you've all heard, is Michael Carter. I love Michael Carter, and he's the only one I have questions about just because of the injury, but I trust him enough as a talent to go put him out there this week.
The Dolphins season is weird. They lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row, and now they ripped off 5 straight. Some bad teams. The Texans, the Jets, the Panthers, the Giants they're a bit of a fraud team. But the rest of the schedule is the Jets, Saints, Titans, Patriots. So they could go 2-2 and see what happens with that.
Just so you know, for Devante Parker, in the 6 games he's played, he has 48 targets. That's 8 targets a game. I have to play him. I'm sorry. I have to.
Carolina Panthers against Buffalo Bills. DJ Moore's hammy is expected to play. DJ Moore is also my sit of the week. Bills are giving up the least most fantasy points to wide receivers. I don't even know who's playing quarterback for Carolina. I think Sam Darnold is healthy enough to play today. They also have Cam Newton. I wouldn't play a Panthers quarterback. I wouldn't play DJ Moore. I wouldn't play any Panther. I don't even think I'd play Chuba Hubbard in this one because the Bills are good against the run. So I wouldn't play any Panther. As for who I'm going to start this week, I don't know. The Panthers defense is pretty good too. Who's your big start of the week or your sit?
I mean, for me, honestly, I'm just playing the guys that I know I can trust this week.
Diggs and Knox, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and Josh Allen. Outside of that, I don't trust Carolina's side of the ball. The only league where I have DJ Moore, I missed the playoffs with the most points scored in the league.
Would you have played him though?
That would have been a question I would have had, and I think I would have had the depth where I could have played someone else, but I think he's too talented where if you don't have one of those major depth pieces, I don't know if I could.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the 4:25 games. Green Bay at Baltimore. I put this note in there. I usually don't put stuff like this in, but Baltimore is without 5 defensive backs who have started at least one game this season due to COVID and or injuries. Lamar Jackson has a bone bruise in his ankle. It's not a strain or high ankle sprain. It's unlikely that he plays. They thought at the beginning of the week there was no chance he would play. He made some progress, but I don't think he's playing. Sammy Watkins is out due to COVID. Marquise Brown has an illness, not COVID, but is expected to play. I'm taking the Packers in my spread pool, that's for sure, because I think Brett Hundley's going to be playing quarterback for them. So, who's a start and a sit for you in this one?
You said not to trust him. I'm trusting Alan Lazard. I mean, the guy is just he's a talented player. You know, without Randall Cobb, he's the wide receiver too there. He proved it last week. His game last week was six catches on 7 targets for 75 yards and a touchdown. That was good for 20 fantasy points. That's kind of the ceiling that he has, and he can hit that ceiling against a team that's beaten up in the secondary with Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback.
But I just can't trust a Packers number 2 wide receiver. You never know what you're going to get. There's no consistency.
I can trust Alan Lazard to go put up a big.
Not in my playoffs. I'm not trusting him. I don't know. For me, it's just one of those games where it's you play Mark Andrews, you play Aaron Rodgers, you play Devante Adams, you play Aaron Jones, and that's it.
Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. I don't know what that Ravens offense is going to look like. I guess you may have to play Marquise Brown, but even that one scares me a little bit. Atlanta Falcons at the San Francisco 49ers. I hate this game because I don't know who to take in my spread. Elijah Mitchell's out again with a knee injury. He has cleared concussion protocol, according to Kyle Shanahan. My sits, Kyle Pitts. I said it earlier on the week. San Francisco 49ers have given up the least amount of points to tight ends. Kyle Pitts hasn't been consistent, so I am benching Kyle Pitts. On the other side of the ball, I think you're going to play every single one of your 49ers. The Falcons have given up a lot of points. The running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends, and wide receivers. So play Debo, play Ayuk, play Kittle, maybe even play Jimmy G, and play Jeff Wilson.
I agree with you on the Niners side of the ball. On the Falcons side of the ball, Cordell Patterson, Russell Gage. Those are the only.
I forgot about Cordell Patterson.
And Russell Gage, I trust.
All right. Going on to Cincinnati Bengals at the Denver Broncos. Javonte Williams is going to play according to Vic Fangio. He's no limitations, his knee, and Melvin Gordon, thumb and hip, is expected to play. Melvin, I said it this week. Don't you have like a family event to attend or something? Like, there's got to be something. Early Christmas, bar mitzvah, a wedding, a birthday. Like, you don't want to miss a family event, man. How about you just skip this game and then skip next week because of Christmas and skip the next week because of New Year's? And just skip them. Just let Javonte Williams run the show. Who's a start and a sit for you in this one?
My start is both of those Broncos running backs. They said it on the show. I think both have proven they could have a big week in the same week. I said at the start of the year, there's only one backfield I trust playing two running backs, which would have been Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I can't trust them anymore. I trust the Denver Broncos duo more than I do that duo.
I'm going to bench Tyler Boyd. I benched him in the league for OBJ and Darnell Mooney. I think he's the wide receiver 3 on that team. T. Higgins has really taken a bigger role in that team, and Jamar Chase is an absolute monster. So that's who I'm going to bench as a start. I just start Jamar Chase because I think he shows every single week that he is a freak. He's a freak athlete. So I think you're going to play Jamar Chase this week.
My bench,
like Joe Burrow. I have to play Burrow because I have to bench Russell Wilson.
I think Burrow's droppable. I'll say it again. I have no problems.
No. Russell Wilson's more droppable than Joe Burrow.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Nope.
Yes, he is. If I showed you the stats, blind stats, Burrow has better stats than Russell Wilson.
You want to take it over the last 4 weeks, 9, 16, 16, 22. His playoff schedule is Denver. You could get away with Baltimore, then Kansas City, who's been locked down on defense.
Yeah, but again, Russell Wilson's been horrible. I mean, look at his numbers. He hasn't played well against. He played well against the Texans because they're the Texans. Russell Wilson has the Rams. I think actually no, I think he has the Bears and the Lions. So maybe from a playoff schedule standpoint, I'll take Russell Wilson.
Over the last,
but if you're starting Russell Wilson this week, I don't think you're getting into your playoffs because he's going to have less than 10 points against the Rams.
Over the last 4 weeks, Russell Wilson has 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, and is averaging more points.
Well, he's going to have like 3 picks on Tuesday and no touchdowns.
We'll see.
Sunday Night Football. The Saints go into Tampa Bay. They play Tampa very tough, like all the time. Leonard Fournette, ankle is expected to play. He's my sit of the week with the Saints. Very, very good against the run. So that's the player that I am flopping. As for somebody I'm starting, it is all the Bucs wide receivers that have given the Saints have allowed the 4th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So lock in Godwin, lock in Mike Evans. Evans is usually good for like a 3-yard touchdown against the Saints. Like it just kind of happens. So those are my starts and sits. What about you, Nick?
I'm saying every single Saint, not a single one I'd play other than Kamara. That's it. And also no Sean Payton in the game today. So
yeah, I saw that one. Yeah,
that even makes it a little bit tougher.
Sean Payton's going to coach
side of the ball.
Couch.
I'm with Nick. I think I would play Fournette just because of how dominant he's been this season, even though it could be a rough day. I temper the expectations.
Yeah, just let me know who. I need to know who your running back 3 is if I can sit Fournette. I'm just saying he's going to be a flop. You may have to play him. All right, we have 2 Monday Night Football games. Las Vegas Raiders at the Cleveland Browns. Basically, everybody on Cleveland has COVID. They're using like a practice squad at this point. I believe Baker's on the COVID list. I think Hunt's on the COVID list. I think Landry's on the COVID list. I think they're all on the COVID list. We don't even know who's going to be cleared before Monday, but I'm benching every Brown basically, except for, I guess, Nick Chubb. But I'm not even taking a chance. I'm benching every Brown. And as for the Raiders, part of me wants to play Derek Carr now over Big Ben. I'm just going to stick to Big Ben.
No, it's Minnesota.
No, it's Minnesota.
Oh, it is. Okay. I see you skipped the game.
Yeah. So I would play. I skipped. I'm sorry. That's on me. So I think the Cleveland game's actually being played first. So I would play on the Raiders side, and Darren Waller's out, by the way. He was ruled out when the game was on Saturday. So I think he's still going to be ruled out for Monday. But I would play Hunter Renfrow for sure, Josh Jacobs for sure, and possibly Derek Carr.
Nick Chubb. That's my list.
All right, there you go. Other Monday Night Football game, Adam Thielen ankle. He didn't practice this week. He's listed as questionable, but I don't think he's going to play. Andy Dalton has COVID. Justin Fields is starting, and Allen Robinson also has COVID. So my start of the week is going to be Darnell Mooney. Steelers wide receivers, I think it was both Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool had big weeks against the Vikings. The Vikings have given up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. They lapped the Titans. Play Darnell Mooney. He's going to get a lot of targets on Monday Night Football from Justin Fields. And my sit in this game, I don't know. Then we have I think I'll just temper my expectations for KJ Osborne. I know he's had 2 back-to-back good games, but I would temper the expectations there for him. Just because my cynical way of thinking, he's had 2 really good games. He's not an elite wide receiver or anything. I could see Tyler Conklin getting more work. Justin Jefferson should have another big game, but that's why I would temper expectations for him. I think David Montgomery has another big day. Obviously, we played Dalvin Cook. I would play Kirk Cousins. So I think it's going to be a pretty productive fantasy night on Monday night.
I agree with the KJ Osborne take to an extent. My only problem is over the last 2 weeks without Adam Thielen, Osborne and Jefferson combined for about 70%.
I know.
It's just so hard to temper expectations when you see that kind of work.
I know. It's also tough when I'm looking at my roster in our league. I have Jefferson, Osborne, and Greg Joseph. Like, Osborne's right now in my flex. OBJ got cleared, so I'm playing him against the Seahawks. My second flex, my options are Osborne, Mooney, Javonte Williams. I have some guys, and I may not make that decision. I may not make that decision until Monday night. I don't think I'm going to play Javonte because I just don't like the Melvin Gordon thing, but I think I'll make my decision on Monday night depending on how my matchup looks.
That's fair. I like Osborne. I like Darnell Mooney. I think Justin Jefferson's going to finish as the wide receiver 1 this week.
I hope so, because I'm going to need it for sure.
I could use it too. He's without Thielen, it's 14.5 targets per game, averaging about 130 receiving yards, has 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's just set up in a perfect position to go succeed, and this matchup's phenomenal. His worst of the 2 games was against Pittsburgh, and he still had over 20 points. I trust Justin Jefferson to go put up a wide receiver 1 week. My only real bench might be David Montgomery. I actually don't trust him too much after seeing last week. He got those 10 points, which made him have a solid fantasy week in the last 2 minutes of play.
But that was also a bit of a weird game. The Vikings have been terrible against the run. They've given up the 10th most fantasy points to fantasy running backs.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I know how favorable this playoff run is going to be for him, but after seeing that,
he had a good game 2 weeks ago. He was a top 5 running back 2 weeks ago, so I would trust him. I know you don't, but I would trust him.
I put him out there. I just don't know if he's going to give you a big week anymore.
That's fair. Tuesday night football. We only have 2 days next week without football. Wednesday, Friday. Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. Please put a gun on my mouth or give me melatonin so I don't have to watch this game. OBJ and Darrell Henderson were activated off the COVID list. I think Tyler Higbee's still on there and a couple other Rams. Jalen Ramsey also got activated off the COVID list. On the Seahawks side, Tyler Lockett is on the COVID list. You're benching Russell Wilson. You're benching DK Metcalf. You're benching Rashad Penny. The Seahawks are going to get smoked. It's not going to be close. They're going to lose by 15 plus. It's going to be pitiful. It's going to be embarrassing. Don't make the mistake that I made last year. I lost my playoffs due to playing Russell Wilson over Justin Herbert and for trusting DK Metcalf against the Rams. I didn't trust them, but I still did it. Don't make the mistake I did. I had a 2,200-point team. I was 300 points ahead of everybody. I had the best team by a mile. Russell Wilson, Herbert, Kelsey, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf. I don't remember the rest of them, but Zeke Elliott. My team was stacked. I will never assemble a team like that again. And I didn't win my championship because I trusted Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf based on names. Don't do it. Metcalf's getting under 10 as well as Russell Wilson. Don't do it. As for the Rams, just play them. Play OBJ, play Cooper Kupp, play Stafford, and play Henderson. Just trust them because the Seahawks are bad everywhere on defense.
I agree with your starts on the Rams side of the ball. I am starting Rashad Penny without a question. No Alex Collins this week. We know Chris Carson's banged up. We know Pete Carroll likes to run the ball. And after Pete Carroll saw him go 16 attempts and get 137 yards and 2 touchdowns, there's no way he tempers Rashad Penny. I think he has another, maybe not a big day, but I think he gives you a good enough fantasy week.
Rashad Penny also might get spine busted by Aaron Donald and break his back.
That is definitely a possibility. But I'm trusting him to go give me a solid fantasy week.
Last game on Tuesday Night Football, last game of the week, the football team against the Philadelphia Eagles. Judy Mckissick, he's out of concussion protocol, but now it's a bit of a neck injury. It doesn't seem like he's going to play, so I wouldn't even put him in your starting lineup. Terry McLaurin, I think he's still in concussion protocol. I couldn't find an update as to if he's out of it or not, which makes things really tough. And Taylor Heineke's on the COVID list. We don't know if he's going to get activated either. So I am keeping Terry McLaurin on my bench unless you have if you have Darnell Mooney or you have to have somebody on Monday night you could flex out it's tough. You have to have somebody on Monday or Tuesday night you could flex out. And I don't even know Terry's, I don't know. If Heineke's not playing, I don't want to play Terry. So I think you kind of have to wait till Tuesday. So your other option would be if you had OBJ. It's the only other one I would flop out. So I think I would just bench Terry. I just wouldn't trust him knowing the situation with COVID. It's too much of a risk for me.
How about KJ Osborne or Terry or Darnell Mooney?
So I need to make that decision on Monday night. I'm going to play Darnell Mooney or KJ Osborne because do I know the Heineke news on Tuesday night?
I don't know.
On Monday night. If I don't know by Monday night, I think one of the kickoffs of those games 8:00. If it's 7:55 and there's no update on Heineke or Terry, he's technically still in concussion protocol as far as we know. I'm slotting in Osborne or Darnell Mooney just so I get points. You need those points in the fantasy playoffs. It's win or go home. You can't wait. You just can't do it.
On top of that, every team is playing. So if you were waiting to play Terry McLaurin, you find out needing that Tuesday night, you need 5-10 points, and you're in the playoffs.
At that point, you got to drop Terry McLaurin.
You're going to have to drop Terry and go pick up a Curtis Samuel just to hope they give you 5 points.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm right there with you, Nick. I'm the same exact way. I'm benching Terry McLaurin if you have someone even remotely close as an option to playing in an earlier game slot. Because I do not want to run the risk of having to drop him going into the second week of the playoffs.
I would play Devante Smith, though. The football team's giving up the second most points to wide receivers. So I think Devante Smith's going to have a pretty nice day over there. And Hurts, I think, should have a nice day, too. I think the Eagles – I have the football team in my spread, but if Tyler Heineke and Terry aren't playing, I'm going to flip it to the Eagles.
I think you were also high on Ricky Seals.
Yeah, I did like Ricky Seals-Jones, but then Heineke got COVID. I don't know who would start. They picked up somebody, but I don't know who would start at quarterback. I wouldn't want to start any football team players, and I'd be a little worried about Antonio Gibson as well. So, alrighty, guys, we went through every game. That is our live show for this Sunday. If you watched it live, thank you so much. If you watched the replay, thank you so much. If you asked the question, thank you so much. The next time you hear from us, you know what, Nick? I think I'm going to drop this show on Thursday. We're going to record Monday, Tuesday. Get which day we're going to do. We're going to drop this show on Thursday. So we're going to do a full week preview, including Thursday Night Football. That's what we're going to do for Christmas week. Merry Christmas to you guys. We have a full show on Thursday. Next time you hear from us, audio will be available on all podcasting platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor. The video and audio version will be available on our YouTube channel, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Nick, anything else you want to say before we get out of here for week 15?
Good luck. See you sometime this week. Hopefully with good news. On Twitter, make sure you share pictures of your playoff matchups. We want to see them.
Yeah, we want to see if you guys win. Hopefully we all win. That'd be great. Good luck, Nick. Good luck to me. Good luck to everybody in your fantasy matchups. We'll talk to you guys on Thursday.